Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Fiscus Friday, our weekly event. I know in the past we've always referred to it as an AMA. Obviously, that's still the case. We're always here to answer questions. We began this journey back in November based on that, based on transparency. You see, the week that we have had has been incredible, absolutely amazing in so many sense. When we look at the impact of the whitelist, and that's for the community. That's for community inclusion. Before we take off in this amazing ship of ours, making sure that all those whitelisters and OGs, Genesis members, been here since the beginning, have a nice firm seat and are buckled in. And so we're thrilled for that. We absolutely are happy about the completion of the whitelist. What a great process it was, so smooth, so amazing. It's not lost on us what's happening in the world right now. When we talk about what's going on in the Ukraine, and so we definitely, from a humanitarian standpoint, our hearts and thoughts go out to those that have had to leave their homes. Most of us are in countries and places where that's not necessarily in the cards for us, at least not right now, depending on where you're at. And so that's something that's not lost on us. As we grow, we always want to make sure that we grow with a heart, that we grow with a passion for people. And that's not something that we lose, and that as we grow, we're able to do more as a community, more for people, more for the community, and more for the growth of all the ideals and projects that we have. So again, thank everyone. The whitelist turned out absolutely incredible. I want to go ahead and turn it over to Princess. She's going to present a deep dive on what project finance is like off-chain. We need to get into this so everyone really has a great understanding. So we're going to get into that, how that works, how the deal making works, the nuances there, the relationships, all the considerations that are part of putting projects owners in the driver's seat for what they're looking for their destiny. And then also what type of financial advisory that is in place, because it's so much more than just financing. That's the part we talk about. We talk about those rough numbers. We have numbers on our overviews and on our spreadsheets, but what's behind that is so vast and so large. And so we definitely want to get into that and what really separates and creates, us even dealing with these really top quarter of 1% of the family offices in the world. So with that, happy to turn it over here to Princess.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody. So excited to see that there's a good showing today, and I'm excited to also chat about this topic to not only those who are here live with us, but also for those who want to review this information. It's going to be a great opportunity for us to all get on the same page about exactly what is it that we're doing when we talk about, excuse me, global project financing. Today, I'm really excited to set the stage for today's discussion, as well as how we'll be using the Fiscus Friday platform to highlight project owners who represent projects receiving funding from Fiscus funds. I'd like to pull the curtain back on how project financing works. Who are the critical players, and how Awaya Management and Consulting Services serves as a strategic partner in the global economic development structures and processes and protocols that shape creative financing opportunities, not just for projects around the world, but for communities around the world. So I'm going to just jump right in. Thank you so much, Phil, for allowing me to take some time to explain this. I think this is going to be an opportunity not only to educate ourselves, but to really understand the creativity involved in what we do. So let's begin. Project finance is a long-term financing of not only infrastructure projects, but industrial projects as well, based on projected cash flows of the project rather than the balance sheets of the actual sponsors. Usually, a project financing structure involves a number of equity investors, also known as sponsors, and we've been seeing that language in our community recently, as well as syndicates of banks. Again, syndicates, we've been hearing that language used in our community as well. So we have syndicates of banks or other lending institutions that provide loans to the operations of the financing. They're most commonly non-recourse loans, which means that they're secured by the project assets and paid entirely from the project cash flow, rather than what we typically see in traditional banking lending, where we would see the general assets or the credit worthiness of the project sponsor. We don't do that in project financing. We actually look to the project itself for its worthiness. A decision in part supported by the financial modeling that's done by those of us who are in the positions to create these plans. Global project financing is a source of private lending that allows for companies to focus on providing capital to middle market or greater businesses with a proven management team, which I've highlighted before, that we want to see strong management teams, as well as high potential for growth. And so that's how we're able to achieve, offering loans, these private loans, at as little as 3% to as great as 10%, which we see in the bridge financing that we offer with Fiscus funds. And typically, these loans last for upwards of 10 years, and some even go into longer term financing strategies that can take us out as far as 30, 40, 50 years into the future. Our service is powered by a lot of modern technology because some of the world's most innovative credit providers and strategic partners come together from around the world to support our measurements of ESG impact. We work with some of the top traders located in the top 100 international banks in the world, and management partners that can continue to support companies in their ability to scale once they receive the capital that we deploy. So as you can see, this is not a light operation. This is an operation that incorporates significant thinking, planning, and some of the best minds in the world in terms of understanding how these systems fit together. So now that we're clear about what project finance is, let's talk about what it's not. It is not a process with public contracts. I get this question a lot. Well, aren't these contracts public? Well, if a government is part of the process or planning, then those government contracts certainly are on the public sphere. But again, project financing as a whole is not necessarily in the public sphere because these contracts are privately held. It's also not seeking personal guarantees. And what that means is that we don't look to the project owner to see if they're credit worthy. We look to the project to make sure that it's credit worthy because we see it in the pro formas and the other financial models that show how the deployment of this type of capital can be utilized. And it's certainly not about diluting ownership or jeopardizing sovereignty, which, as you all know and have heard me speak of before, really puts at risk some of the indigenous communities that we work closely with. Because if you were ever to look at even your own bank statements or agreements that you have on credit cards, you will see a line in there that actually waives sovereignty if you were to ever default. And so we see this as an issue that has shown up for tens of years, tens and 20 generations for indigenous. And that's one of the main reasons why we're getting such a strong call out from tribal communities from across the globe, because we do not jeopardize that sovereignty. These transactions are private, meaning that what makes this financing so successful is the attunement of the project owner and their goals and the goals of what's called private family offices and ultra high net worth investors. So on the other side of the project finance is what we call
the lost Princess there.
Oh, no.
Give her just a
Can you
quick
hear me
second
okay?
there.
Can you hear me all right? Bill, can you hear me okay? I just want a sound check, if I can get a sound check.
Yep, I can hear you.
Great. Thank you so much, Kyle.
As we wait on Princess there, let's go on to Kyle, and let's get some updates on what we have going on in store from his end of things, and we'll come back to Princess.
So it sounds good, Phil. Actually, I think we've got we've got Princess sorted out. I think she's good. Why don't you continue, and then I'll hop on right after you.
Okay, sounds great. Just give me a holler if you cannot hear me, but I will trust that Kyle, and I've gotten some messages from others that they can hear me. So I'll just continue. So now that we're clear on what project finance is and what it's not, the other side of project finance is really working with, as Phil was saying, the top 0.25% of the wealthy in the world. And truly that number is actually more closely aligned with the top 0.0001% or the top 10,000th of the world. They are typically organized as private family offices. Wealth creators and inheritors face numerous challenges and decisions when stewarding their assets for their future generations. You know, you've probably heard the buzzwords about generational wealth and creating that. Well, this group of our population, our global population, really has this mechanism down pat. And so serving the present day needs of these extended family members is really critical to them. Increasing family heads or principals are creating family offices to manage their wealth and provide highly personalized services. And over the last 20 years alone, growth in global wealth has resulted in the creation of an estimated 10,000 family offices in the world. So no longer are we talking about the province of the world's, top 2,500 billionaires. The private family office concept now scales to those families that have upwards of 200 million US dollars or more in investable wealth. Why do I mention this? Because I'm not just paying attention to these private transactions as it relates to the project owners. I'm really relating to the project to the financial support from these family offices. It's a collection of professionals. It's a collection of family businesses. It's also a collection of a lot of services that are used to maintain their support of their goals, whether it be philanthropic, investment-oriented, or administrative. These family offices can consist of as few as a couple people or as many as 350 people or more. So when we're talking about these private transactions, we could be speaking about a boardroom of people who are looking to shift their whole portfolio to support, say, something like green technologies across the world. The private trust companies that also work in concert with these private family offices operate as standalone entities or sometimes even as family investment companies. Okay, so let's get away from the technical piece. Let's get right down to what we've been discussing a lot in our community recently, and that's privacy and trust. Significant wealth brings with it the unwelcome attention and expectations of others who seek the principal's time, the support, or even the capital. A family office allows for the management of family members in the structure A family office allows for the management of family matters in a structure of near complete confidentiality. And I know some of you have definitely engaged with me about what does confidentiality mean, how does it relate to transparency, and what do we mean by privacy. Knowledge of personal information can be restricted to trusted employees or contractors who in turn serve as a liaison to external services. That's where WAWEA comes into mind. Trust has increasingly become, in some cases, enough of a reason to justify the cost of the family office because they cannot get it in other places, even through legalities. So many affluent families have firsthand experience with advisors who exploit their relationships to the detriment of the families that they serve. I just got a call this week from a guy who owns multiple gold mines, and he was told by one of his brokers, hey, why don't we just, put this gold mine and that one over there into a trust? And what the principal noticed was the broker was listed as the beneficiary. This is huge. This is wrong. This is not the way that we want to be serving these families. It's really about trust, and it's really about making sure we're not misrepresenting some of the most important reasons why they are organized as family offices. So I stress this because I know many of us have had these conversations about what we can share and what we can't share. It doesn't just impact our project owners, but it impacts those that are investing as well. So I just want to make that statement because, as I have been working through a lot of these projects, you've been seeing that not only are we working with hundreds of millions of dollars, but in some cases billions of dollars of capital that needs to be deployed towards these projects. So what I want to really say here is that Wawea serves as a strategic partner to a lot of these opportunities. And it's important for us to remember that, yes, it's helpful to have this information for you to be able to participate in the token, but what's more important in the real world in terms of where I sit is making sure there's a nice harmony amongst all of us participating in these projects. So when a project owner may, see that their information is being shared, they may get very excited about that opportunity to market out what they're doing, get some feedback right away. But then there are other private, project owners who are really aware of the intense competition that exists in their vertical. Maybe some of them even have direct relationships to private family offices that are supporting them. And so there's a lot of moving parts that are built into the actual structuring of what a successful deal can create. Some of you have heard me also talk about the delicacy of these types of transactions, because that's exactly what they are. It's a transaction of service for financing to achieve the project's goals. When we talk about that kind of privacy and that delicacy, as I was mentioning to one of our earlier members today, it's really important that we understand that no deal is done until the money is transferred. So when we issue out these MOUs in our structure, we're issuing out promises that we want to support these projects. However, until the funding is received by the project owners, we consider the deal not done. That's why between promise and delivery, we have to be incredibly respectful of the protocols, procedures, and the necessity for confidentiality, privacy, and the continuing motivations to maintain trust and support of the projects as well as the investments. Okay, so what's Wawea's strategic partnership model, and how do we actually construct our deals? Oftentimes when I speak to project owners, they see me as simply a middle person to their ability to get funding issued for their project. But as you can tell, we operate with a lot more sophistication than being a shortstop for funding opportunities. We've built long-standing trusted relationships within the private family office complex. We position their assets for the goal of achieving short-term return on their multi-billion-dollar investment strategies. And we prepare financial models that support their wealth growth, which provides generational wealth in their structures. On the project side, we actually work side by side with the project owners who are at the beginning of their 5, 10, or 20-year plans, and we present financial models on how creative financing, again, typically coming from private sources, and the mechanisms of how these models can demonstrate their ability to accelerate their options and opportunities to get their ideas out to market and actually succeed. So some of you might be wondering, all right, Princess, this is all well and good, but how are you able to pull down $19.2 billion in one afternoon, which actually happened, and Phil can attest to this. Over 2 projects, I was able to have conversations about the type of funding strategy Fiscus Funds uses, as well as Minazaga, as well as some other partners that I work with. It's all in the relationships. The relationships are what cement the focus for these projects to really see that they can achieve what the outcomes are that they've projected. I'm focused on the protocols of how my family offices work, how these types of communities, like our participation in a DAO community, works, and how the project developer understands and digests exactly what we mean by creative financing. So I listen. And then I listen even more. This is one of the skills that it goes by so many people. If you don't listen to what the needs are of the project developer or the family office, or in this case, the DAO community, we're really missing the point, and we're missing an opportunity to be in harmony and attunement as we progress towards the development of these types of infrastructure projects and industrial size opportunities. Sometimes what comes up in conversation is far more than what you might imagine. I hear stories of family members who are dying from cancer, and maybe they're fourth generation in this experience, and so they're looking for solutions in the market to help with not just the research, but the actual implementation of good, solid solutions. I listen to the desires of shifting from fossil fuel-driven investment plans to green tech growth plans, where I have to hear, one generation of family members negotiate with another generation of family members to make that kind of investment shift. And then I listen also to the legacies that they want to leave. Everything from, for example, that gold mine that I was mentioning to you, he was really focused on what's going to be the best structure for me to leave a legacy to my family. I hear it all. And so that's the reason why I have to be under very scrupulous demands to follow through with NDA and confidential agreements. I know way more information about the families. I know way more information about the project owners, and I know way more information about what's going on in the market. And that's what makes this a secure and a challenging process. I have to be available nearly 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just to keep up on the latest news, the worries, the concerns from every aspect of the globe. I help them connect with the resources that are around the world, and I provide strict adherence to their trust and their privacy concerns. And so this is where I just bring it right to home base about where we are right now. Our work that we're doing is absolutely legendary. It's absolutely about the future and thinking about how we can move capital from across the globe to really serve and provide the future opportunities in different communities. This is a large-scale economic development plan that you're participating in and witnessing when you hear Fiscus funds. That's why we have 5 different funds to generate a strong cycle of distribution. That's why you see in each fund, there's multiple industries represented and not your typical coupling or grouping. We're thinking about the future. You all help me understand what's the future when we incorporate an on-chain environment to this off-chain complex. When we incorporate the on-chain environment, we also have other rules that get shared and community-driven and developed. But we can't forget the real-world consequences. And that's why I ask us all to really put not just our creative minds on this, but our real thinking caps on. Because what would be important to you if you were one of the major investors into a project? Would you want your family to be in the news about that? I get asked that all the time. Would you want your name and signatures to be out there for the public to see? These are all real examples of what we run into and the things that we have to negotiate and compromise on as we bring off-chain into the on-chain world. We're learning, every single one of us. I'm learning, you're learning. Phil and I, we learn together through a lot of these challenges. But what's amazing is that we are really coming onto a precipice of what the future can look like. This is going to change not only the way the banking system works, it will change how you yourself think about companies as you participate in, maybe as a consumer, buying the brand, buying the product. But now you get to participate in a fractional investment approach that has an unregulated theme to it. What are our responsibilities? What are our ethics? How do we guide ourselves when there's no regulation or boundaries in the process? This is what our greatest challenge is. And what I ask us to do is just take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Who are we affecting? Who are we helping? And how do we bring everybody together in a harmonious way, again, to allow us to deepen the opportunities, to really exploit technology in a way that really allows us to move capital much faster than we've ever seen in the history of capitalism. And at the same time, how do we bring this world closer together sharing solutions and sharing technologies that can really help us to achieve progress as our humanity continues to move forward. So I welcome questions for sure. If you have any desire to understand some of these complex topics, but to understand that Wawea's strategy is simple. It starts with the relationship and ends with the relationship. The deal's never done until the money is actually in the appropriate hands. And we follow a systematic process of clear stewardship that really drives itself from the regulated space into the unregulated space. So I ask you to, help me in thinking about the different ways that we can really use the on-chain activity to support project owners, to attract more private investors into these types of spaces, and to welcome this new digital age that allows us to move capital faster. I'll leave it there. There's so much to discuss. I can go on, but I wanted you to know that, this is not just a simple middleman sort of configuration. You can see already on our team, there's several of us that have to operate. I don't know, a lot of times when Kyle's talking to me about DAO creation and structure, I don't know what he's talking about. I have to ask questions. And many people don't necessarily know the nuances of the work that I work in. And so I ask that we all just come together with the questions that are on our minds and the curiosities that are involved in creating this new type of economy. I'm so excited to hear from each of you, and I'm so excited to work with the project owners that are present in this group. And this leads me right into how I'm planning on using the Fiscus Funds Fiscus Friday platform. Next week, we will be hearing from some of the strongest leaders out of the U.S. tribal community. We will be hearing from also a technologist or a group of technologists who are here in the United States trying to find the safest and non-invasive way to actually recover oil. Everybody knows that oil is really something that is a big concern right now. Well, we are working with a company that has found a way to actually extract oil using non-invasive techniques. In the future, we will also hear from a hedge fund manager who's focused on how do we support live entertainment through the use and deployment of capital like ours. And we will continue to hear from other leaders from around the globe on what it means to create smart cities on a global scale, working with tribal community members, not just one, but getting consensus from, say, 12 at a time. So we have much to explore, and I'm really excited to use this platform to share with you, give you that inside knowledge so that you're not just investing in a token. You're not just participating in a community. You're not just, throwing some money at something that seems like a stock, but really is not. This is an opportunity for you to help us shape what the future outcomes can be. And that's why I'm excited to bring my off-chain knowledge into the on-chain world and vice versa, to bring that on-chain knowledge into the off-chain world to show that we can really truly work together to expand our global economic development plans. So join me in continuing to be curious and continuing to find projects that really create a beautiful society. And at the very least, for us to get to know each other even more closely on how we can actually do this together, not in separate silos as we have in the past. So with all of that, Phil, I'm really excited to pass this back on to you, but I really am excited to engage with the community on a deeper level when we talk about project finance, on-chain development, and off-chain real-world experiences.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're definitely honored to have you here, and you are such a part of Fiscus is truly an honor. And so we thank you for that. We know that the successes that we have experienced to date are in large part because of you. And so we definitely, as a community, thank you. And we're just thrilled. I mean, there's a level of excitement that exists, and there also is. I think last week there was this excitement knowing that we would be having a successful whitelist, knowing that it would be smooth. And then we see the benefits of that, the benefits of waiting, the benefits of patience. We know that throughout the week, we've talked about projects. We've had these amazing projects here in the community. This is the fulfillment of weeks before. This is the fulfillment of a month ago, 2 months ago. And as we continue to grow, there is so much more, so much more. And again, we're not talking about more and more and more and more that's needed and required before launch. We're not saying that. We're saying that the plan, the fulfillment of the things that we've talked about has happened and will continue to happen. And so for great updates and for some additional amazing expertise, let's turn over to Kyle and see what he has in store for us.
Thanks, Phil. I was kind of laughing earlier here because I saw Crypto Nash, he was having some issues there with audio and trying to connect. But I think Crypto Nash is straddling between I think a conference there at work and just knowing sort of the line of work as a associate attorney. It's interesting. You're on a sell transactional call right now, and what we've got kind of going on here is quite exciting. So I know that, with some of those technical difficulties, I wouldn't bet if, your work's trying to put a filter on you, trying to connect and listen in and perhaps see an early retirement. But in any event, I'm glad that you were able to resolve that issue. And, one of the things mentioned earlier by JW Barr was, effectively, the mass community feeling of us stumbling into a really good opportunity. Hang on a second. Hopefully that's better. Somebody was mentioning my audio wasn't too loud. So JW Barr was saying that we stumbled into a massive opportunity here, and really the opportunity's been created by the community. If the community doesn't really support the endeavor, then quite honestly, it wouldn't be as successful without you guys. Speaking to that point, really, last week we met the partners at Gourmet, Brad and Brooke, and again, the community and the ecosystem we're creating. We mentioned about how leads are generated, how projects are brought into the ecosystem, and really the community helps empower these deals we support. Really good example is Brad, Brooke, and myself. Brooke and myself. We were on a conversation with another member of the community, and the member of the community had a link, a resource, a possible introduction into a very well-known chef or multiple chefs, and that introduction might not be as easily broachable without, again, an inner channel. So having the community support this it's just amazing. Likewise, we have some other interesting upcoming projects that are in our pipelines. I didn't really want to go into them in too detail, but I did want to mention them to the community, because as we come across LBP next week, it is interesting to be aware of just what's going on in the background and what deals are in our pipeline. And so, a couple here are we've got a real estate property that has it's currently 121 unit residential property that is fully rented out, so it's making about $400,000 or so in monthly rental revenue. And so, the opportunity here is the owner of the project's looking to further add land assets to their portfolio, and they are looking for project financing. But an opportunity like this is really interesting because it's not a project we're investing in for future development. It's one that exists now and it's cash flowing, and it's just something that could be very attractive to the portfolio. Another project that we have in our pipeline is a biotech deal where they focus on, I guess you can say, disrupting the way in which drugs are administered. And right now they've got to focus on the cannabis industry because I guess they feel that that's topical, that's very low barrier. It's just a way for them to get traction in their business. And their technologies are quite interesting. They've got a certain nanotechnology, which is really a buzz in sort of that space. But I guess their technology goes a step beyond nano. They molecularize molecules. And so for me, I've got a bit of a science background. I can talk this stuff all day long, but I'll share that with you once the deal is fully in our pipeline. And the last one is a smaller deal in the sort of AR VR space. So augmented reality, virtual reality, and creating immersive experiences. And again, we'll speak to this company as it becomes a bit more formalized. Let's see here. I'm reading through the channel, and I realize that a lot of or some people are saying that they can't hear audio. I realize by me suggesting you drop out of the channel and reconnect, it's not going to help you. So hopefully it works out for you guys. So getting into some updates here on the dev side, we're very pleased that the whitelist has been finalized. We raised slightly over $1.5 million US, so that does exceed our expectations. And again, we're very thrilled to see that happen. I know some of the members in the team are still catching up on sleep as they were sort of in the back end coding last night, but I think they're all with us here for this call. I know that the LBP is being worked on, and we are looking forward to releasing this soon. I'm not going to mention dates. I'll let Phil kind of speak to that or save that announcement for later. And we do have website content being reworked by the admin team at the moment, and our goal here is to provide a better user experience. I'm sure we'll have other iterations and amendments in the future, but at the moment, we do want to improve upon our current website experience. So that's wraps it up for dev at the moment. On an operational side, we've met with CERTIC to sign the NDAs and effectively we've started the audit on the smart contracts and the code base review. We've also met with our legal representatives, more like a legal guild, who they're responsible for compiling our compliance, our legal framework on pretty much the following four, I guess, key areas. So incorporation, investments, token issuance, and then on-chain governments. So that's their core focus. Now, the legal guild is made up of some lawyers out of Canada and out of the US. They monitor regulatory compliance, primarily what's coming out of the SEC, quite closely, and then they'll help us navigate, those channels because it is a very changing landscape. So moving on to marketing, so Tiago and the team effectively are working to build out landing pages for different sets of campaigns for different audiences. And in fact, actually, he is working on some polls. So we would like to have some internal campaigns or prizes, I guess, if you will. We'd like to learn a little more about what you, the general community, would like to see out of Fiscus. I mean, some of those things are obvious. Of course, we all want a capitalistic, advantage here, but we'd also like to learn, what's the draw. And the reason we want to know these things is as we move forward to some of our marketing and advertising, Fiscus to people that aren't community members at the moment. We'd want to speak to them, right, and speak to them effectively, because I think that we've got a fantastic thing going on here. I feel like the community feels the same, and we'd like to add to the community because just the larger we get, the the more deals and stuff we can get involved in too, and we look very much forward to doing that. And so, with that information, it does also help us be a bit lean and efficient in our marketing. We can cut through some of the split testing that we need to do, and if we could have you guys contribute and participate with some of that polling. So again, as Tiago works out the funnels and the landing pages, himself and his working on our ads, and those will be up as the website's finalized. We'd want to run those ads a bit more aggressively and highlight the new website. Just the other day here, we had our first press release come out. I think it got picked up by quite a few news outlets, and I believe we had about 11,000 initial impressions on it. So right now our focus on North America and Europe for that PR distribution. However, it would propagate, syndicate out to other news agencies and might trickle in areas, but our focus is on North America and Europe at the moment. And then we translated material in French and Spanish for the time being. We will translate to other languages, but in the moment, it's just English, French, and Spanish. Our Twitter following, that continues to grow, so we're quite pleased there. If you aren't following us yet, please do so. And, just following on what I mentioned last week, I'd love for you to spread the word amongst your networks and, really help this community together. The other night, or last nights, when I play Call of Duty Warzone, and so, there were sometimes you get into some off-topic discussion, and I was mentioning, Fiscus, a couple users I was playing with. So maybe we see them here in the community. If so, hey guys. If not, then I'll go bug them to join. Those are my updates at the moment. I'll throw it back to Phil for the time, and I'll speak up. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Kyle. Absolutely. Such amazing things going on really everywhere, and again, this is the fulfillment of head down activity, right? Of consistent work. Something that none of us shy away from. We know that the sum of what we're doing is so much bigger than our individual parts. And so, we truly all play our part in the sense of trying to almost outwork one another. I'll get messages really 24/7. I think is probably, it seems like an understatement, and obviously the ones that are the most pertinent, getting back to those when it comes from our core team, and then from outside of, I'm happy to be caught up on DMs. If there's anybody that has anything outstanding, feel free to bump the message, perhaps if I didn't see it. But we're here as a community, and we want everyone to grow. I think that's such a theme of this Fiscus Friday. It's so much more than just Fisk the token. It's so much more than just having a big bag and reaching Mars. It's about so much more than that. And because of that, we'll get there, because it is enjoyable for us. This is not work. Everyone is in their skill sets, in their zone. And because of that, it is truly enjoyable. And so burnout is not on the horizon. It's the exact opposite. We want to increase in our activity, really to be able to bring not only this to fruition, but the additional things that we have in store, such as the LBP. I know everybody's excited and waiting on that. Not going to announce the exact date at this very second, but we will be announcing that date soon. The reason why there's a question that was answered in the AMA questions is really because what we're lining up for that, right? Remember that Fiscus and our chess theme, when you really think about chess, I've had some chess games in the past that last 8 hours, 9 hours, some depending on, where I was, it lasted even 2 and 3 days. And so when we consider that and consider patience as a theme, it's not only worth it. I think the worth has been established by what these projects brings to the table for the ROI, what we're able to do to the FISC token. But it's really there in the impact and in the sustainability of the project. And so because of that, we appreciate everyone recognizing that and realizing that. With that, too, I want to turn over to Donnie, who has, I think, some updates on some certain elements that he's been working on.
Thank you, Phil. Wow, Princess and Kyle, fantastic. It's certainly hard to follow those two wonderful presentations. Mine is my subject matter is quite boring. I'm just going to update you on what I have going on. Obviously, we are on the last legs of the NFT process. Everything sale-wise closed. What we're doing is tying up final numbers. I've got a few orphan wallets that still haven't been claimed, so we'll certainly monitor that. And a lot of you have used the calculator that's in the channels, and we will have final NFT numbers very soon. I do want to say that we're going to leave open the OG and Genesis claims. Certainly, those are trickling in. It's a very small trickle, but those coins will be that airdrop is accounted for, and we want those people to claim those tokens, and so we will leave that open at least through launch. I do want to speak a little bit about the future NFTs. Those are being worked on. Aesthetically, they'll be somewhat different, and we think better looking. Even though I believe that the first ones that were issued were fantastic. Those will be on the AVAX on the Avalanche network, and there will be a swap, and it will be post launch. So we want to get through the LBP, obviously, onto launch, and then we will exchange those older NFTs for new, shiny, more aesthetically pleasing ones, I suppose. I've been asked in the DMs about keeping an old one for or old ones for sentimental purposes, and we will probably allow that. But certainly the utility and the payouts will be transferred to the new ones. So that's really all I have in my realm. We're very busy verifying NFT holdings and making sure the tokens, the issuances are reconciled. So that's really it from my side of the world. Phil, that's back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tony. From me, the community can expect Fiscus Plus, which is very exciting, and it's a culmination from the efforts of all of us. But I'll be kind of spearheading the completion of the overview on that. I think that seeing that, everyone will kind of understand too the thoughts on both LBP and then where we're at from a launch perspective. Also, it applies to both the supply and demand of Fisk and how we truly benefit from other projects. This is something that has been, I think, talked about, maybe referenced a little bit, and this is other on-chain projects. But Fiscus Plus really dives into that, and there's additional rewards and royalties and benefits for NFT holders and also for Fisk holders. And so we wanted to wait until we've really gotten to this stage to be able to get into it and talk about it. I mean, you can just imagine if on day one, we really released everything and we were talking about funds and projects and the multitude of projects and all of the elements that make Fiscus. It would have been overwhelming, would have been a disservice, on our part in even relaying that information. And so, again, we appreciate the patience, and most importantly, we appreciate the dialogue and the understanding and the willingness to dive into the concepts and to the actions that we're taking. What a great time and a great day and a great place to be in. I feel fortunate. Every day I wake up, I feel absolutely fortunate to be able to work in this way, to be able to be in a community where acceptance has been the theme, to be able to be in a community where we have the ability to do these things, and everyone here is for that ability. All points of the spectrum, and we truly appreciate all points of the spectrum. Whenever individuals in the community were getting into lively discussions and debates, those are points that are important. It's never a sense of take everything that we say as the only truth and just stick with that and don't ask questions. We're not that way. When we look at things from a political perspective, DAOs are not dictatorships. And so we know that right now there's elements that have centralization And with everything dealing with the off-chain, there's these large looming elements of confidentiality that we have to abide by. But at the same time, we know that from a community perspective, it's about inclusion, and it's about all of us being better than just one or even a few of us. And so, based on that, I'd like to turn it over to Kyle, who'll take us out.
Hey, thanks for that, Phil. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. I know I got a bunch of messages, and what I've just let people know, just if you don't happen to hear my audio in the transcript, definitely reach out and I'll transcribe my notes for you, so at least you've got the points. Again, another really good AMA. I think we're all coming off of a bit of a high, a bit of a feeling of accomplishment from the whitelist, not just the admins and core groups. I think just the community in general, the buzz is there, and so that's pretty awesome. I think moving into the weekend and coming upon next week, we've got a lot of work on the dev side, we've got a lot of work on the legal compliance side. A lot of that's research, but also just having formation of certain action items. That's going to be our core task. And yes, we do work over the weekend, so. Again, it's going to be a busy next few days while we gear up for LVP. And again, reach out to your friends, family, whomever you feel would support the community and get them involved as well, because we, would love to have them part of that LVP process and everything sort of Fiscus moving forward. Here, Bram, that's awesome. You know what? Sometimes the problem always is with me. I'm usually the troublemaker, and so I'm very fortunate that they let me out of the cage and let me speak last time, and let me speak this week as well. So, that's awesome. Awesome. Yeah, you know what? Like that's true. Like my kids and wife, I think they're listening to this as well. So Rude Awakening, you're 100% right. Like get everybody in here. Like this is an awesome space to be. The community is very supportive and our projects are exciting. So let's grow this together. And if we don't talk sooner, I look forward to talking to you guys next week as well. Have a great week, everybody.